Hi, everybody. I'm Darshi. Thank you, Matthew, and welcome for all of you for our first pedagogy panel. And I'm really pleased to be here to share what I'm doing with Elevate. So it's a really short presentation I've put together to show what my work sort of in terms of social annotation. It's slightly different angle to other social annotations that I've seen through Elevate. Not mainly based on a one particular article and we are looking at it, but more sort of I've used it around for the benefit of my students in another way. So as part of the Kiel Elevate pilot group, I've been using Elevate for 2 of my modules, and I'll just give you some sort of an idea of what I've been doing past year or so. Next slide, please, Matthew. That's really cool, right? Okay, so it's more sort of, I've used Elevate to deliver foundation year health students modules. So in the context of foundation year health students, I've got over 100 students doing the module. And the most challenging aspect for me has been because these students are progressing into different programs, like let's say medicine, pharmacy, physiotherapy, radiography, and so on, their entry requirements are different and therefore their knowledge. So because of that, it has been really difficult to engage all of them at the same level and to contribute when it comes to in-class work, as well as when we've seen before during the pandemic when it was most of asynchronous sessions. So this is where Elevate came in handy, or I've been just using Elevate to bring that sort of collaboration a little bit more. If we can move on to the next slide, please, Matthew. So in my workshops, in the module workshop, what we've been practicing was we are trying to get the people, the students, in mixed cohorts, so not sort of putting them into the disciplines they are moving into, but more sort of into groups, multidisciplinary groups, and then getting them to work on a, let's say, a worksheet, perhaps putting their answers together. So they, at the end of the session, they bring up a group answer, and we asked them to put it through Elevate. And this is where the beauty comes together, because then if we had 3 groups in a session, we would have 3 different answers. So when we have these 3 different answers, in their next tutorial session, I would ask all students to come in and start going through this work and actually start some social annotations going in. So, well, I know some of you might be thinking, well, we can do it simply raising hand technique, the one that we always used before, but this is where the problem is. I'm pretty sure everybody would agree. We would have only see a very few people putting their hands up and start telling about others' work, especially their peers. They really don't want to shout out in a class to tell, oh, how about this or how about that? But Elevate giving them the opportunity to be anonymous if they want to, or if they're brave enough, put their name in. But that gives them 3 different answers, including what they brought up, and to actually see everybody else's work and start thinking about it. And then they start annotating. Matthew, I think if you can click, there's another thing. Yeah, we go. So some of them start saying, giving marks to them. Some of them start putting annotations to say what they thought about it. Being anonymous, they are really sort of more very honest, in my opinion. That's what I've seen. So this gives them the opportunity to reflect their own piece of work, but then also see their peers' work. So it generates really powerful feedback, peer feedback, as well as individual feedback. But then this also allowed us as tutors to see what they're commenting and more sort of tick into their brain and see what they're thinking about it, and then to comment on it. So that actually was really, really powerful in the way how we learned. But at the same time, it gave that certain group of people who really didn't want to interact, but they were looking at what's going on. They can see what others are thinking. They can see what the tutors are commenting. And though they were silent observers, they were taking quite a bit in. So it's actually, I felt like they all benefited from it. So if we can move on to the next one. Thanks, Matthew. So this is where this one reason why I kept using Elevate throughout the semester was to come to the formative assessments. Now I got over 100 students, And it's really, really a big task. Again, I know everybody would agree. It's like giving that feedback. I really, really feel it's a must that we give formative feedback for them, because that's how they learn. But how could it be productive? And also, how could we improve their feedback literacy? Those are the things, my main areas I'm looking at, especially them coming in different entry requirement levels, different knowledge, and all the skills as well. So when it came to formative assessments, what I've done is I've given them exemplars, again, asking them to comment on them. Matthew, I think we can click one more. There we go. So that, again, I've asked them to look at these. Those are some exemplars, and to comment on them. Again, the same thing happened. People start commenting on what they see, what they would give marks, what they think a good piece, what they think it's not, and all. So a wealth of feedback, peer feedback, as well as tutor feedback. And again, I felt like it was really important, something that we were missing, where if I give feedback in a normal way, it's not likely I would see what they're thinking about it. But this way, I could see what they're thinking. So if they've said, let's say, put an annotation there and I've given my comment, they might reply back to me saying, what about this? So that we could have that conversation going on. So I think, and I'm really happy about it, but I felt like the overall feedback literacy actually improved. More we practiced this, they were more on to really good quality annotations in another way when they look at the exemplar, rather than just picking something random. So again, because they were practicing this throughout, they knew how to use Elevate. Again, it's a really simple tool. There's not a big sort of things to learn about it, but they knew how to put their own notes into the same thing. So it's like wealth of knowledge, quite a bit of feedback for me. So basically, like I said, this is the process I've used, Elevate, and that is the social annotations I've created into it. If we can go on to the next one, there you go. So what was the Elevate role in this? In my opinion, it gave me an inclusive classroom. So regardless whether they wanted to participate, actively shout out in the class or not, that didn't restrict them participating it. They were either being sort of, let's say, put anonymously, they could interact. If not, they could be a silent observer, but still take on the information. So that's more sort of been a really inclusive classroom for me. Then also it gave opportunity to share knowledge, in which they started doing these annotations, which creates the answers from their tutors, as well as the authors who wrote that piece, as well as intergroup exchange of knowledge as well. So more sort of the whole class. Like I said before, it also captures everyone's attention. Something I didn't actually put on the slide, but they later came to my mind, is actually the students were acting as partners, something that we are really into pushing at Kiel as well. Because they were commenting, because I could see what they're thinking, I've changed certain feedback ways that we give. I've changed the curriculum where some questions we changed. So actually they had a really powerful influence in acting as students as partners as well. And finally, my main thing, that's why I started using Elevate, but then actually it started growing and growing to use many more things. But for me, the main thing I used it was to improve the feedback literacy, but I can see I can carry it on further, but that's where I am at the moment.